Hey, Michael. All right. Since you're in Hong Kong and I'm over here in Texas, new format where I send you a video, you send me one back.
Challenge accepted.
And kind of inspired by Hank and John Green, the guys from Vlogbrothers or something like that. I haven't seen a lot of their videos, but I like that as a concept. One person sends something, explains something, the other one sends it back. So maybe I'll start this one by showing you a couple things that I saw today that I thought were cool, and then ask you some questions. And instead of asking business questions to start with, I'll ask you some personal ones. That should be fun. All right, I'm gonna share my screen to start with the things that I saw. Okay, Steady. This is an app that's inside of ChatGPT, and I think that's interesting. It allows you to look up coverage, so like insurance coverage for an individual, and that's their whole product. So they do a whole lot more. The interesting thing about it is that it exists inside the business and enterprise ChatGPT. So it's not in this long list of apps. I originally was looking for it in here and couldn't find it, and learned that you need to be on the business or enterprise plan. And the reason I thought about it and thought about our conversations is because we've talked about ChatGPT or Claude being your kind of main interface for everything, being your cockpit, your dashboard, and all of your other apps are connected into it. And the reason that you might want to hang out in Claude or Chat is because it has all of your context and all of this personal knowledge about you. So I thought it was cool to see an app besides just like the expected ones like Gmail and Google Calendar and kind of these basic ones, a cool, more specific one, and also one that doesn't exist inside or out here in the Plus area. And I'm curious what other ones exist inside of just business and enterprise, since I've never been on that plan. Yeah, thought that was neat. I also found this one I thought was fun, called Spaceship, also just publicly available, but it can help you find domain names. So just fun. Tasklet. These guys have the most revenue. Today was YC demo day, and this company has the most revenue or the highest revenue run rate of any YC company, $7 million run rate. So that's like 600,000 in monthly recurring revenue. And I think it's interesting because this is basically N8N or Zapier just with text. Like you can vibe code Zapier, vibe code N8N. That's what this seems like, at least. I haven't logged in, but from this example, it seems like that's what it is. So it's interesting. That made me think, if they are so far along in terms of revenue, because I think at the beginning of the year, they were just at a fraction of that. What are they doing for go-to-market? How are they getting people to sign up? Because we've been talking about go-to-market. Everybody has been talking about how distribution is the edge because it's so easy to build great software. Means they must have quite a few customers if they're within this $25 or $100 range. Pretty neat. Okay. Did I find any other ones? No, didn't find any interesting ones in here. No, these are all the regular ones that we would see. That's it. Okay, those are the two things I saw. These are the Vlogbrothers. Did you know Turkey is pronounced Turkiyet? The country Turkey, not like this guy, gobble, gobble, gobble. All right, and finally, questions for you. Very exciting. Got a different screen for these. Okay. What's something you've changed your mind about in the last year?
Probably the biggest shift for me is just having a really hard realization how much like sales and distribution matters. And I think I kind of left going into it thinking like, wow, I can just make so much software now. And I already kind of knew that sales and distribution was kind of the missing piece. That was kind of the main driver where I was like, I have no choice but to resign so I can actually really like learn to flex that muscle and grow that muscle. Um, but yeah, it's so much more than that, and also just an ever growing appreciation for this concept of a loop. I've always had an appreciation for this, but it was always more on the builder side because the full like product loop, I wasn't fully involved in that. Uh, Working inside of a company where these were kind of more specialized sort of compartments of an org. And what I'm really appreciating and liking now is the ability to just really, really get into the loop, not just like thinking of designing software and running agents in loops, but like really talking to the customers, watching them, screen sharing them, and just identifying like so many small little things that they're not even really software problems. They're just sort of big picture common sense problems and really just problems that are very easy to solve if you're actually in the loop iteratively and holistically. So and just today I was working with Andrew and he was showing me some errors about from ChatGPT. There were some strange upload errors. I was like, what is this? Like, and then it wasn't until I actually like got on the like call with him, and he was telling me that he was trying to drag files from Bitterclip into ChatGPT, and and I realized that just like I, of course, like I know how these like MCP apps work, but for most people, they've never even heard of this. They don't even understand the concept, and that's normal. And my mind just it wasn't obvious to me as just what I'm steeped in. And so just being in the loop, seeing like, okay, that's what you're doing. I see the problem isn't really a software problem. The problem is just like a basic educational onboarding problem, which of course you can solve with software. But yeah, it's, yeah. So I would say I've always kind of known this, but it's getting more and more visceral and sort of holistic. This concept of just like really, really being in the loop from end to end, from sales and distribution, but actually also just once you get someone who the software actually matters and cares about it, like taking care of them and really getting on their level, like having that empathy and always like jumping on everything as an opportunity to learn and just advance like what you're trying to do. And so yeah, I would say that's the biggest thing I've changed my mind on is just thinking about software like much more holistically and not just heads down building.
What do you believe to be true that many others may not? It's a classic Peter Thiel question.
Yeah, so I mean, I think I've talked about this, but probably my most sort of contrarian take in terms of like building software for the sort of AI era is I feel like it's everyone's natural tendency to just gravitate towards building an agent for this, an agent for that. And I do think that is a very natural thing to move and a very obvious thing to attack. But I do think that it's something you should resist heavily and actively and rather think about building software that is designed around agents. So don't build the agent, build the software that is designed around the agent. And it's funny because it's almost like old school software in a sense. So everyone's rushing to build the agent now. And I'm saying, no, let's just build the software that's designed around the agent. And that's really no different than software has looked like since, well, the beginning of personal computing. But of course, the agent was a human with a mouse and a keyboard, essentially. And now the agent is this LLM in a harness that's extremely trained to use command line interfaces effectively. And so I think the shape of software hasn't changed in many ways, but yeah, the way you think about building is obviously very, very different, because the agent is changing so quickly. It's no longer a human with a fixed amount of sort of mental capacity and bandwidth and time constraint. You're now dealing with agents that are polymathic, 150 IQ in every subject, perfect like recall in all those subjects, the ability to cross synthesize in those subjects, and the ability to basically do much of the sort of really boring, mind-numbing work that the human agent like struggled with, like flawlessly at extremely high volumes. Of course, there's limitations. There's a whole jagged intelligence, and that too is something that changes in how you build the software around the agent. For the human design software, we didn't have this. Well, humans are probably jagged in a different way, but we consider ourselves, like, I guess, well-rounded in relation to LLMs. But maybe if you could flip that around and you could say LLMs are more well-rounded and humans are more jagged. I think it's neither or, but the fact is the shape of the software around the agent, whether it's a human agent or a synthetic software agent, is a different kind of software. And yeah, I'd say that's my contrarian take. It's sort of the lesson I learned in the trenches building agents myself. They're really powerful. They're really interesting. But yeah, I've talked about this. I think there's a structural tailwind where there is maybe not a winner-take-all market, but a winner-take-most market where the frontier AIs and the harnesses, such as the GPT class models with a Codex harness or a ChatGPT chat harness, or likewise a Fable Mythos, Claude class model in a Claude Code CLI or Cloud Chat harness. These are models and harnesses that are very hard to replicate. And even if you came close, you're competing with the most well-funded, focused teams that have the most incentive to make the harness better. And that's quite a big battle to pick for 99.9% of the software companies out there. So yeah, I would say that's my contrarian take. You kind of want to compete where you have an unfair advantage, and that really boils down to the human insight into a particular problem, and hopefully also now a distribution advantage. How can you actually get people to learn and care about that software cheaper and more effectively than your competition? And that's typically also kind of interlinked with your insights in many ways. So yeah, that would be my sort of contrarian take.
And what's something you'd like to be doing in 5 years that you're not doing today?
Well, in 5 years, I would really love to see Bitter be like a serious operating company. Where currently, I mean, it's obviously awesome. I get to be in the trenches and sort of brute forcing my way through unblocking you on, for example, using the hosted environment, building BitterClip to try to get us some distribution, doing this video series, just hands-on. It's really awesome. And yeah, I hope that it leads to something bigger where we have a company that is shipping many products, changing industries, changing people's lives. That my role is much more at the sort of orchestration layer. Gosh, who knows where AI is at in 5 years, but that there is an extremely sort of high level of autonomy that we've really adhered to the principle of sort of heeding the bitter lesson that scalable methods such as search and learning are sort of leveraged properly, and we're not getting blindsided by systems that do that more effectively. And then also the Amdahl's law axiom of like figuring out how to really build a company that focuses on this kind of collaborative work surface between agents and humans to do like good work has just like advanced to a point where it's like unrecognizable where we're at today, where we're all still kind of fumbling around with structuring these loops and getting some long horizon work out of our agents, and still just kind of scratching the surface of agents kind of coming back to us proactively with interesting information or strategic information. And we're all still kind of fumbling about with how we synchronize our kind of real world context with our sort of digital second brain systems that we're now starting to have. That this is all really matured heavily into essentially a corporate entity that's like perfected this. And I think that would be like really incredible. And I still have no idea what that looks like, but I think it's an environment where like it's like I hope that we keep like doing this build in public stuff. I think it's a really like synergistic thing to build in public in the world of AI and agents, because you end up in the training data, and which just leads to more discovery, and I think you kind of get this snowballing effect over time. And so actually to that end, today I am open sourcing one of the research publications I've been running just internally as like one of these auto research projects. It's called Bitter Frontier. And it should be available at frontier.bittersh already, but I'm going to like open a public Git repo for this. And so that basically in this publication, I track like about a dozen sort of agentic frameworks and related projects, such as like the open source ones like Hermes and Pi, and of course the provider ones like Codex and Cloud Code, et cetera, and Open Hands and things. And that it tracks their releases to try to get like a very grounded pulse in what's happening, and it sort of helps bind my intuitions about things in terms of where the actual boots on the ground projects are focusing their efforts. And it helps me calibrate and kind of corroborate how I think about stuff. And I'm going to open source this, and so that as I write about these projects, maybe the contributors on those projects can also correct me or give me feedback or make pull requests or add relevant info. It's just one example, but going back to the 5-year vision, I think having this entity that is this collaborative human AI sort of instrument that can only be I think accelerated by building and being more transparent in public. And I think that's sort of the direction that excites me most. And I could see an environment where like Bitter the bitter sort of ecosystem, the bitter doctrine has gotten very effective, and maybe there's still some semblance of a show like this. Hopefully, we've overtaken TBPN at that point, and I want it would be funny if it got to the point where like we're talking about like maybe we should like take a look at this industry or this vertical, and then the stock market moves based on that, because it's like, oh no, bidders like pointed its focus on this like, you know, chunk of the software industry that still hasn't like updated itself into these like new ways of building and working and solving for its customers. And yeah, anyways, that would be, I think, a really interesting future to be in.
Cool. Talk to you soon.